You can't be
Racism's
racist to
based
white
though, so it doesn't
women.
really matter.
Oh damn.
I mean, I think you can.
I would take the position that you can't be racist to white women, but you can, but to white men.
Such a. All right. Well, when y'all start.
And who is debating?
All right, yeah. Could we mute everybody except the debaters, obviously, and then we can get this started? Or they can at least just like mute themselves. We don't have to.
Yeah, just mute yourself so you don't get server muted.
Yeah, mute yourselves, my friends.
Alright. Alright, Kajobe, if you want to start by explaining your position, you could start.
Damn, bro, he's really gonna leave me high and dry. All right, let's see. Let's start with the basis of the actual definition of racism. I'm just gonna start with the Google definition, since everyone likes to refer to that one. All right. Racism: prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is minority or marginalized. Now, are white people the minority or marginalized? No, they are not. And it goes deeper than that because the concept of race didn't exist until 1600s, early 1500s, around that time period where basically European settlers and like colonizers were coming to the west coast of Africa to like capture and enslave Africans to basically use as capital to build the Western world of the United States. Back then, they didn't consider us people. They consider us property, subhuman, which was used to justify their unjustly treatment of us, because they tried to use biology to basically categorize us as less than human. So that's where the concept of race comes. They basically racially divide us based off of phenotypes, genetic, facial features, and skin tones. They believe white was superior to darker skin, and they use the power concept where that leaves where we are today, where basically the majority of us is white and everybody is not white. And there are racial disparities that still affect minorities, but still benefit white people.
Okay. So is that it or no?
So no, to be racist, you have to be racially prejudiced, systemic power over all other. That's I'm gonna start.
Kind of cutting out.
I know, I'm like, fuck my Wi-Fi.
Alright, but to point out like the definition, the Google definition, try like saying that it applies to your definition. I'm gonna say that it doesn't because it says typically. Typically doesn't always mean only and always to that specific group, marginalized group. So it like this is true. Like typically it's to a marginalized group, right? But it doesn't mean that it's only to a marginalized group.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, so like, well, I don't see the point of like this trying to help you. It actually doesn't help you. Also, are you saying that because white people created race, they can't experience racism? Is what you're saying?
I'm saying they created it and they still benefit off of it. In a perfect world, if we start scratch, yes, white people would be able to experience racism. Then I would agree with you there. But in this case, given the historical context and the world we live in today, based off how white people got to where they are now, no, they cannot experience the very power system they created because it's been too far along to where no, you can't just simply flip the script by just, I don't know, saying a racial slur or trying to be discriminatory today in modern society. So no.
Okay. So I would say that we should go to the roots of that, right? So how did like what led to that happening? And I believe that it is racial prejudice. So my definition is racial prejudice. That is my definition of racism. All right, because you cannot have a racist system without racial prejudice, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying it would make more sense to see that racial prejudice means that you are racist to that person. So why do you say that this whole power system, is it just because of the historical context?
I'm saying racial prejudice. Like we all have racial prejudice individually. Like for instance, definition of racial prejudice.
No, we that's how do we all have racial prejudice? Hello?
Shit. Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm breaking up.
Alright.
Basically, racial prejudice means that we all have some sort of implicit biases, like internally against one another, but not like in a bad way, but it's something that we're conditioned in this society to think about one another. Like we associate one another with stereotypes based off our skin color and, all of that. Not saying it's a good thing, but that's just the way that society teaches us as, in the Western world.
So you think racism is taught, right?
Racism is what?
You think racism is taught, not learned?
No. Yeah, racism is taught.
Okay, racism is taught is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Okay, I disagree. I think it's learned first and then it's taught because okay, so who is the rate like if racism was taught, right? The
Yeah.
first person like who was quote unquote racist would needed to have been like we needed to have learned it, right? Or else who did they get taught it from?
I mean, to learn, it's more of it starts off as a belief that one is superior. It starts off a belief as superiority rather than just being taught by something. Because if you have a group of people who just believe a certain thing over another certain people, and then they imply that and they act on it, that creates a ideology and a system to which they acted on, which gives it power.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So where do these superiority beliefs come from?
To be honest, I don't even know.
I would say racial prejudice.
But yeah, racial prejudice, like
Exactly. So my definition would make more sense. My definition goes to the roots of that racism and explains how it happens. Yours doesn't. Yours just says yours is just merely a consequence of my definition. So I would say my definition makes the most sense.
a consequence of your definition. Like explain what you mean by that.
Like yours is only a consequence of racial prejudice. You even admitted this yourself. You said that you first need racial prejudice in order for this to happen, right?
Yeah, racism that without some form of racial prejudice.
Wait, what? Can you repeat that?
Racism doesn't exist without some form of racial prejudice.
Exactly. So if that's the case, right? This whole power dynamic, this whole power dynamic comes from racial prejudice.
Yes,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is
Okay. So how does your definition make more sense to mine? Your definition doesn't explain the roots of it. Mine does.
so we're talking about the roots, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep storing it. All right.
Wait, what?
Hold on. I'm get this source, NSAPonline.org. Is where I usually home to on. Fuck, I can't even talk. All right, hold on. Racism refers to prejudice or discrimination against individuals or groups based on beliefs about one's own racial superiority or the belief that race reflects inherent differences in attributes and capabilities. Racism is the basis for social stratification and differential treatment that advantage the dominant group. It could take many forms, including explicit racial prejudice and discrimination by individuals and institutions. e.g., Jim Crow laws after the Reconstruction, as well as unstructural or environmental racism in policies or practices that foster discrimination and mutually reinforcing social inequalities. I'm just saying, well, my point of the argument is that racial prejudice exists, but like racism, you require racial prejudice with some sort of structural and systemic power. And that's something that minorities do not possess over white people or any other ethnic group.
Okay, so like right again, what's it called? Why does it require some sort of systemic power in order for it to actually be racism? Like
Because
why?
you enforce those racial prejudices, ideologies onto other ethnic groups of people based off laws, policies, stuff that can actually affect them.
You can do that
like
without a system, though.
what?
You can enforce your racial prejudices on like without a system.
You talk about individually?
Yeah. Like why do you need a system in order to do that? That doesn't make sense.
To make sense?
No, I'm saying why do you need a system in order to enforce your racial prejudices on other people? That doesn't make sense.
Well, the thing is, you can be racially prejudiced to someone without having some sort of system to reinforce that.
Mm-hmm.
That by itself is racial prejudice. That's the point I'm trying to make. But for it to be racism, you need those systems in place to reinforce those racial prejudices you have towards those person, thereby making it racist.
But why do you need a system?
What do you mean, why do you need the system?
Yeah, why is the system aspect there? Why is it like there needs to be some sort of reason as to why they implemented that power dynamic in your definition, right? They can't just say, oh, it's because it's supposed to be that way, because then that would just be excusing. That would just be trying to make an excuse to be racist towards white people. There needs to be some sort of reason.
Well, no, because like there's not like I know I'm not trying to hold on. I'm not trying to say there should be a reason to be racist towards white people because there obviously is no reason. Like it's just wrong regardless. But trying to like separate the difference between the words racial prejudice, and racism because they both. Hold on. Damn, my brain just froze. Can you repeat your question?
What? My
Can you
question.
repeat what you said?
Okay, so I said that your definition, like why does your definition require a system in order to what's it called, act on those racial prejudices? Like, because there's supposed to be a reason for it. It can't just be, oh, it's a better way, it's a more efficient way to enforce your prejudices. Because like because you gotta give me a reason why there needs to be a system. Why can't it just be individually? Why is the system aspect there? There has to be a reason, right?
I mean, you sort of say. So, if you look at the suffix, fuck, hold on, give me a second. Give me a second. All right, I got it right now. My brain just sort of.
Wait, what?
I got nothing right now. My brain just sort of froze.
You were gonna talk about the suffix.
I was going to go ahead and say the suffix of ism implies. Hold 1, based off a distinctive practice, system, or philosophy, typically a political ideology or an artistic movement. That there goes the suffix of ism. And when you apply that to race, basically it adds
what?
it basically adds what's the word I'm looking for? Damn. It basically adds those adds the concept of structural and institutionalized power dynamics to the word race itself, rather than racial prejudice.
So you're saying like it's the system, right? Like in ism, it refers to the system of ism, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
System, distinctive philosophy, yeah.
But don't you believe that like ism can also be a belief?
Yeah, that's just one of the definitions.
Exactly. So I would say that racism is a belief that different races have certain qualities, which is racial prejudice, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So why would we not agree to my definition? Like why does your system definition make more sense than mine?
because that's what I was saying. Anyone can be racially prejudiced, but to have racism, you have to be the ethnic group that has a certain advantage of power dynamic, structural, institutionalized beneficiary over other ethnic groups that reinforce those racial prejudices, like um, implicit biases within the police force or the police system, the justice system. Police start off as slave patrol to catch slaves made by white people, back during slavery. Nowadays, police system, that's how they evolve. And they still hold some implicit biases against African Americans than they do white people. Even though white people die more than African Americans due to the population, black people are disproportionately more times to get killed than white people due to the implicit bias within the police system. That's something that is there due to the ideology of racism that's been implied within the system.
Okay. So I'm not like gonna debate you on like systemic racism because that's not the topic, right? But I'm gonna ask you again, why does there need to be a power dynamic or system? You have yet to give a reason for it.
Well, well, actually, what I believe is racism and systemic racism. Systemic racism is actually kind of redundant because it does nothing but really highlight the fact what racism really is. To me, racism and systemic racism mean the same thing.
So racism and systemic racism mean the same thing.
Yes, it just highlights the fact of what the ism and race really mean.
You're
Structural and
you're kind of dodging my question though. Like I asked, why does there need to be a system?
to uphold those race. Hold on, I'm not quite getting what you're trying to ask me.
Yeah, because like I'm saying, like I have a reason for why there needs to be racial prejudice in order to be racism, right? Because it makes sense, the roots of it. I'm asking why does racism, it's the word racism require a system? Why can't it just be a belief? Why can't the ism suffix be a belief? Why does it have to be a system?
Why does it have to be a system to? I mean,
Can I say something to help? Put another way. Why can't it just be person to person? Why can't it just be human being to human being?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Why
mute
can't
myself now.
Yeah, sure.
Just so nobody gets mad about this after the debate, he's doing that as a mod to clarify the position that somebody's outlining.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't it just be person to person? Because, I mean,
Because you could enforce racial prejudice person to person. There doesn't need to be a system for that.
And how would you enforce racial prejudice on another person individually rather than having a whole system backed up by that?
Okay, so I mean, we could just say like, you can get a like you look at a, for example, I'm using a hypothetical here. You can a one person, right, a white person. They see a black person jogging, right, just like on the street. There's no like, oh, this black business owner owns a business and they're using their power to enforce the racial prejudice. I'm saying these are two regular people. They hold the same power in society, right? And then this a white person goes over to this black person and kills him. That's what I mean by individually. There is no like that white person wasn't in more of a position of power than the black person in the current moment.
Wait. So you're going off the basis that basically both the white and black person are both equal
In the
functioning
current
members
moment, I'm not saying like as a whole. I'm saying in the current moment.
in the current moment. They're both equal. Like no one has an advantage over the other
They're
whatsoever.
just regular.
Yeah, they're just regular people walking.
Okay.
Why can't
And
that be considered racism? Why does that have to be a system?
I mean, hypothetically speaking, okay. Just because so the white guy kills the black guy just because he wanted to. Like, was there
No,
any like?
Yeah, because he's black. No,
be-
because he's black.
yeah, because of his racial prejudices. He thinks that black
Okay,
person has like this certain qualities, and therefore that makes him bad. So he kills him.
and so you're going off this hypothetical where there's been no history of racism whatsoever between white and black people. You're going off based off
Again,
as blank.
why does it need to be a historical background that involves a system? You have to explain that to me.
Well, I have to say that given the fact that without the systems and without without the historical context of racism, then it would just simply be racial prejudice by itself.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you again. Why does the word racism require a system? What is your reason? Why does it require a system in order to oppress other people?
To basically, okay, it requires the system to enable the racial prejudices that are used against that person with little to no consequence. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore.
Wait, was that your answer, or were you just like thinking?
I was thinking out loud, but you can take it as you can take it as.
It's alright, it's alright.
You can take it as an answer. So
Can you repeat it then? If you're gonna use it as an answer.
I said, okay, I said that basically it requires a system to basically fuck, I already forgot what I said. Shit.
Sorry, man. I'll give you time to like gather your thoughts if you want.
I mean, You know what? I can't really think straight right now, so I'm just gonna like retract my argument for now.
Well, what?
I can't really think straight right now, so I'm just gonna like retract my argument in the meantime.
That's fair.
Alright, so
That's
that
fair.
concludes the debate.
That concludes the debate.
Alright.
Can I just does any well how do you guys normally conclude debates?